Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. This is attorney Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney. Welcome to another episode of Women Winning Wednesdays. This space was created to empower women, which is the mission of my firm. And the way we're doing that is by presenting women who have not only overcome certain obstacles, but they've got tools to help you and I become more empowered women. So I'm really excited about today's guest. And before I tell you a bit about her, just as a reminder, please allow StreamYard to view your comments and for us to view your comments. And the way you do that is by going to StreamYard.com/Facebook. That's StreamYard.com/Facebook. Like I said, today we are talking about a really important topic, and it's not just trending, but it's something that we've needed to talk about for a long time, and that is mental health. Mental health and the issues associated with it are not only affecting professional athletes like tennis phenom Naomi Osaka, but it affects everyday people like you and me. Our guest today is Dr. Paula Anderson. Like I said, I'm really excited to have her. She's not only someone I respect, but she's also a friend. So let me tell you a bit about her. Dr. Paula Anderson is the president and CEO of PACE Consulting, a behavioral health counseling and organizational consulting firm here in the Washington, D.C. area. Dr. Anderson has degrees in psychology and community counseling, and she's recently successfully defended her dissertation in organizational psychology. In addition to being an organizational psychologist, Dr. Anderson is a licensed clinical professional counselor. She's licensed here in the state of Maryland. She's a nationally certified counselor and a Maryland board approved supervisor. She's also a bit of a rock star too. Dr. Anderson was featured in the MEA magazine in June of 2013 in the feature section of Women in Business, Making a Difference. She was also recognized and awarded as one of the 25 influential women in business making a difference in October 2013 in the same magazine. In October 2019, Dr. Anderson was featured in the same magazine as a CEO to watch. Without further ado, I give you my friend, Dr. Paula Anderson. Hi, Dr. Paula.
Hello, Elsa. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous. It is really, really such a pleasure to have you here on the show to talk about such an important topic, particularly in communities of color. But really, mental health is something that affects all of us, regardless of socioeconomic status, as we've seen in the media recently. Now, I've told the audience a bit about you. Could you share just anything else that we should know, and specifically how your company helps people with issues regarding mental health?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and to be on your show. Thank you so much again. So a little bit about me outside of what you shared. I am a mom of two boys, and I've been married for 23 years. So I have a husband as well. And in terms of PACE has been around for about 14 years, and like you said, we do behavioral health counseling services. So we have a private practice side in College Park. And then we also do, like I said, organizational consulting, where we actually go in and work with businesses on workplace wellness, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and team and leadership development. So that's the organizational consulting side. But on the private practice side, we take insurance. We see people from all the way from children all the way to adults. And we work with people that have, I guess, challenges like depression, anxiety, workplace stress. And those are kind of the areas that we work in. And then we also do marriage and family counseling as well.
Why? And let's get right into it, because there's so much I want to talk to you about.
Yeah,
sure the audience is just like chomping at the bit for us to have this conversation. Why do we have such a hard time talking about mental health in communities of color? And to the audience, I've already said that, you know, we want to see your comments, so make sure to give StreamYard permission to view your comments. If mental health is seen as a taboo in your family, I want you to type just the number 1 in the comments. Okay, Dr. Paula, please.
So the stigma around mental health, I think it's something that our communities we just haven't spent a lot of time talking about it. And then when we do, it's in a negative space. So for instance, you will hear the word crazy a lot. Like, I don't go to therapy, and therapy is for crazy people. And so when you put that kind of negative language around the topic of mental health, people shy away from it, especially what I've found is in communities of color, people stay away from, you know, going to the shrink, right? Even that word, like, what's a shrink? Right. And so there's so much negative connotation around it that unfortunately communities of color have shied away from it. However, I will say in the last 10 years, I've seen a little bit of a shift because now it's becoming it's normalized now. Like, people are talking about mental health more openly and freely. And I give a shout out to Naomi Osaka, like you just mentioned. I'm so proud of what she did and how she really showed on the world stage how to take care of yourself and how to, you know, prioritize your mental health.
I was so impressed with her too, and proud of her that she was able to use her platform and her prestige to really bring light to an issue that's not just affecting people that perform at her level, but it's affecting everyone. You know, particularly, you know, given the past year that we've had, but, you know, mental health, I mean, the issues around it is nothing new.
Right.
You know, no, it's nothing new. Give us an example of stressors that you've observed in women of color specifically. And the follow-up to that is, does it vary depending on socioeconomic status, or are there some things that are just across the board, affects us all?
So the types of stressors that I've observed, and I will say I've been practicing for about 20 years. So, you know, started when I was about 2 years old. But I would say the stressors that I've seen is self-imposed stress. So taking on too many things, like saying yes to just about everything. And what happens is that while it may seem like a good idea at the moment, you're piling on too many things at one time. And so it's self-imposed because no one is making you do that. You're saying yes to these things. And now instead of them being an opportunity, it's becoming a stressor. I think the other thing is that I feel like as women of color, we embrace the strong Black woman, and I believe we are strong, but I think we embrace it a little too much. And so sometimes that leads to multitasking as well. Like you're like, I'm strong. I can do this. I can do that. I can do that. I can save the world. I could, you know what I mean? And then now it's like, again, taking on too much, self-imposed. So you're multitasking. I think the other thing that women of color experience, and this is not something that we're doing to ourselves, is just society, is just discrimination. So whether it be race or gender discrimination, I see that a lot in just different forms, because I work with a lot of women who either own their business or they're in corporate or they're just in the work world. So just facing that double standard, double jeopardy, as they call it, the race and gender discrimination. So those are some common things that I see in terms of stressors for women of color.
Do you, and this just came to mind while you were talking, but like, you know, often, and I've personally experienced this myself, like microaggressions.
Oh, yeah.
That they build up, and, you know, you may brush it off, but it actually takes a toll on you physically, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it could lead to psychological distress, which is, we can talk about that another time. My dissertation was about that, about like psychological distress and, you know, what women of color face in the workplace. And microaggressions are a huge part of that, because people will say things and do things to you, and they think it doesn't affect you. But if it happens over and over and over again, it can lead to anxiety. It can lead to depression. It can lead to even having suicidal ideations, you know. So those microaggressions are actually macroaggressions, if you think about it, because it's really hurting your mental health and your mental well-being.
Since you've mentioned all the things that you've mentioned, what are some signs that we need to look out for, that, hey, you know, it may be time for you just to talk with someone?
Great question, Elsa. I think the thing that I commonly see, and people don't realize it's a sign, is irritability. And so like you just, like something really simple, people are asking something really simple of you, and you become irritated, or you become easily angered. And then usually you can, who gets it is your family members, your spouse, your kids, and they're like, Mom, like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? Because you're so easily upset. Frustration is another thing. The other thing is losing interest in things that you used to enjoy doing. So if you used to enjoy, you know, going out with friends, although we haven't been able to do that in COVID, but, you know, just things that you're interested in doing, you start to lose interest. You don't want to do that. Isolation, you isolate yourself. So there's a number of factors, but I would say that irritability and then losing interest are some of the top ones that you can just, I may want to just to talk to someone would be a good place to start.
Now, let me counter, because somebody might say, look, Dr. Paula, I'm just having a bad day. I don't need to talk to a therapist. I'm just having an off day.
Right.
What, you know, is there a difference between just being a little off because maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or, you know, it's that time of the month or whatever? I mean, just to be real, you know, as women, what is there something more to that? Something that will distinguish, like, yeah, I probably need to call someone like Dr. Paula, you know, in her office because this is not going well, versus I just need to get more sleep.
Yeah, no, great question. And yes, we all have bad days. We actually have bad weeks, right? Yeah. And that's okay. Like, that's normal. That's life. But I think it gets to the point where when it's chronic, when it's like every day, and it starts to affect your family, or it starts to affect work, or it starts to affect, as what we call it in the mental health world, activities of daily living. So if it's affecting your sleep constantly, or it's affecting your eating, or it's affecting you, do you see what I'm saying? It starts to disturb the things that you normally do on a normal basis. Then that's the time when you're like, okay, I may need to look into this. But yes, we do have bad days, bad weeks, and that's okay. It's all good. But when it starts to affect just your normal life functions, then that's something to really look out for.
You know, you and I talked off camera about some fairly recent experiences with trauma that you had. To the extent that you feel comfortable, would you share that with the audience, please?
Yeah, I will. So last year, as we all have been, like, we all went through a collective trauma with COVID, and then with the social justice issues. I feel like it was on the world stage, both of those issues. And it was no different for me as a therapist, right? I felt like I felt it even double, and not to, you know, say, you know, that I'm special or anything, but because I'm a therapist, so I'm also I'm not only experiencing these things, but I'm also helping people through these things, the social injustice and the pandemic at the same time. And so when the May 25th, I think, when George Floyd was murdered, and then what happened afterwards with the protest and just the way it was being handled on the federal level, it traumatized me, because, as I mentioned earlier, I have two African-American children, boys. And so it was one of those things where I started to notice in myself, like, I was lacking motivation. At that time, I was finishing my PhD program, or in the midst of it. And I felt like I just didn't want to do the work. I would get up and I'd like look at my computer, stare at my computer actually. And I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, it was literally too much to handle. And the news, I tried to turn off the news, but then you have your phone, so something pops up on your phone. Right. So things were, media's coming from everywhere, and you're trying to slow it down, but just knowing like what was in the background, what we were talking about, the dinner table, you can't like ignore those things. And so as a mom, as a therapist, as a wife, of a husband who was also African-American, it was tough. And it led to me finally just saying, I need to, relook at getting a therapist myself.
So the therapist gets a therapist. Don't lose sight of this, everybody.
I had one before, but we had to change, and I had gone from some months without one, but I was like, oh no, I can't keep, like, I can't go on without having someone else to talk to. Yeah.
So now that we're doing so many, and thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
Now that we are in this like Zoom world, and everything is virtual, has that changed your practice in terms of how you're able to reach people who need mental health services? Are you online? Are you doing things virtually?
Yeah, it has. It actually has been a silver lining, a blessing in disguise, because we always saw people in person in our office. I mentioned College Park, always. And we, as a therapist, I knew that was telehealth, but it was not something that I thought too much about, right? And then come March 16th, exactly, I remember the day of 2020, I'm like, we got to figure this out.
Yep, same here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like we're in business, and we cannot go out of business now. And so we quickly figured it out. I had to purchase some new platforms, and we are fully telehealth right now. We're not seeing people in the office just yet, but our whole practice is online, on Zoom, every day, all day, even weekends.
Do you find that you're able to reach even more people now that you're virtual?
Yes. We are seeing people. Before, we would see people like Montgomery County, Prince George, local. Now we're seeing people all over the state, and we are also seeing people outside of the state. So in other states as well, we're also seeing clients. And so it definitely has grown our practice in ways that I just didn't think of pre-COVID. So, yeah.
When people, because I've seen the ads on like my Facebook stream and stuff about like telehealth, and get just find a therapist online. You don't even have to leave your home. How does, in this new world of telehealth, how does a person, where do they go to find a therapist if they want to talk to someone? And how do you evaluate like credentials? Where are good places to go?
Ooh, really good questions. Well, for therapists, they can, Google is always, I always say Google is your friend. Like Google, you can start there, but there are specific sites for therapists. Psychologytoday.com is one of them. There's another one specifically for therapists of color, like Therapy for Black Girls. There's one called Therapy for Black Men. And people can go on these sites and find, if they're looking specifically for therapists of color, they can go on those sites. If they're just looking for a therapist, Psychology Today is a good place. And like I mentioned, Google is also a good place. And once you Google, you see different people's websites. So once you find a therapist, I would go on their website just to kind of look more and dig more into their business. And then I think in terms of like finding out more about therapists and what they, their licensure, you can go on to like the health and human hygiene. I can't remember,
Mhm.
but Maryland, every state has like a Department of Health, and our license are underneath there. So you can just make sure that your therapist is completely and fully licensed, because some people will say they're counselors, but we've had scams before. So you can actually go on Department of Health, and look up the, social workers or counselors or psychologists or psychiatrists, whoever it is that you found that you want to kind of do some more, do your own homework on.
Dr. Paula, and would you just please tell, not just, professional women like myself and many of the ones that are listening, but every woman, who's listening to this, that, and it's more powerful coming from you than from me, because you're the expert, that, juggling family, trying to self-care, trying to, be a wife if you're married, and children and business and everything else, that it's okay not to be okay.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, absolutely. It is okay not to be okay. It is okay to just sit in your pajamas all day if you need to for a day or so. You know what I mean? It's okay. Like we've been through so much, Elsa. The fact that we've come through 2020 and the fact that we're both of sound mind right now is huge. That just shows that we are resilient as people. It's huge. But some days are not going to look like this, where we're having like a healthy discussion. Some days you just want to be in your pajamas. You just want to be in your pajamas, and guess what? That's okay. And some days you want to turn off your camera, and if your employer allows that, then turn off your camera, because it's not every day. Like, we are still going through something called pandemic related stress. We're all dealing with it, and it's going to come out in different ways. Like, some days you can be like, oh, I'm good, yeah, I'm good. And then the next day you can be like, oh my God, like, why do I feel like this? You know what I mean? And that's because, like, we've been through something that we're not used to as people. We're not used to being at home for 15 months,
Yeah.
right? We're not used to
in an incubator,
right, exactly, right? So it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. I will say it multiple times if you need me to.
Thank you. We love you for it. Someone, and I forget who, but someone said that the most valuable piece of real estate that we own is our own mind.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I just want to put that in the ether. And and in wills and estate planning, which is what I do for a living, one needs a sound mind, legally needs a sound mind in order to execute a will. You need to have a clear understanding of what you own and what you want to happen to it when you are no longer here. And I tell people over and over again that the time to create an estate plan is not when you're in crisis, because, when you're in crisis, as as the expert, there's a whole nother energy there. You can't focus and you're scattered, right?
And there's brain fog.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you would share with the audience, as we're, getting close to the top of the hour, like why is having good mental hygiene important? And then a follow-up to that, what are some tips that we can use like right now?
Awesome. Yes. So good mental hygiene, hygiene means that you preserve your health, right? And so I think we might have talked about this as well. People often come to therapy when, kind of like with you, like when there's a crisis, like, oh my God, I got to get a will. Oh my God, I have to get this. Yeah. People often come to therapy like, oh my God, like I feel sad every day. And yes, you should come then. But I've had people, and I really like applaud them for this, when they're like, I just want to check in. I want to like get therapy before something else happens, before I'm starting to see some patterns. And although I don't, I'm not at the point where I feel like I have an illness, but I do want to come to therapy just as a check-in. I just want to just talk and just to make sure that I don't get to the place of a crisis. And so, yes, you can use therapy in that way too, as a preventative measure, not just reactionary. So just think about that too, that you can use mental health or therapy as a preventative measure. The other thing that you asked was about coping, like what can people do
what
now?
What coping tools?
Yeah. I really encourage people to have a regular or a daily practice. And so what that means is that whatever that looks like for you, whether that's listening to music. I know that sounds real, like listening to music, Dr. Paula, but yes,
Some people
sometimes
may see it as woo woo, whatever, but it's actually quite relaxing depending on the music. Yeah.
Exactly. Relaxing. Meditation.
Mm.
For me personally, 5 minutes every morning. It's a given. And what that has done is that put me in a space where, like, when things happen to me, something happened last week, and we don't have time for that. But in the midst of the chaos, I felt myself like go to this calm state because my brain is used to being calm every day. At a certain time of day. And I literally felt myself like, okay, this is happening, but you don't have to react with the situation. You can be calm.
Wow.
And that's only because I practice it every day, right? So when I need it, it's like, oh, wait, my brain is wired to just be calm.
Are there like apps or anything that you'd recommend or even that you use in your practice?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned this before. I need a check from this app. But anyway, the Calm app, CALM, Calm is such a great app because they have meditations on there. There's so many. You can also Google apps that are helpful for mental health. But I go to Calm because they have the meditations that I like on there. A lot of people turn to YouTube, which is really cool. YouTube has anywhere from 5-minute meditations to 3-hour long meditations that people can engage in. So YouTube is a really good source as well. But there are plenty of apps that you can just literally, it's on your phone and just turn it on in the mornings or afternoons or even in the middle of the workday. Just put your earphones on and just take 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've done that. I do a combination of the positive, motivational things that I listen to in the morning. Yeah, actually in the shower, it's like it's playing, and I just need to listen to it.
Absolutely,
because I need to get my head right before I face whatever it is that I'm going to face in the day.
Absolutely.
I need to strengthen. Some people, if you're a person of faith, some people,
pray.
do prayer.
Bible study. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Prayer, Bible study, all of that is so helpful. And then exercise, make sure you're getting in your walks. Although I know people don't let the cicadas out, but you can do, there's an app that I use called a 7-minute app. You can literally work out in 7 minutes. So there's so many, technology has really improved our life in so many ways. And so use it to your advantage and for your mental health.
Do you have anything? So we talked about start of day. Are there any kind of end of day practices that you would recommend to kind of wind down and decompress?
Yeah. Again, music.
Same thing.
Same thing. Music, low music. Reading a book before bed helps to put you to sleep. Herbal teas.
Love those.
At nights, and then trying to turn off your technology 30 minutes before bed.
I'm so guilty of that.
I know I am too, but it's helpful that is another thing that's recommended, just to kind of turn off the technology and just start to wind down. So yeah, there's a number of things you can meditate at night too.
Very true. Dr. Paula, as we're almost at the top of the hour, how can people get in contact with you and just reach out to PACE if they even if they just have a question, whether to explore whether therapy is something that's right for them? I'm going to put your information on the screen, but
sure. The best way to get in contact with us is, well, you can call us at that 240 number, but also our website. If you go at pace-consulting.com, we do have a contact us box where you can literally type in a question and we will get it through email, the question that you have or inquiry. So that's a really good way to get in touch with us. We're listed also on psychologytoday.com. So if you went to that site and looked for therapists or just look for the name Pace Consulting, you can find us there as well. But yeah, there's a number of ways. If you have insurance like Care First and I think Medicaid, that's another way to find us. So there's a number of ways to find us online.
Fabulous. Dr. Paula, it has really been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show today. Just this brief conversation, I'm sure, has been a blessing to folks who, have maybe it's more than just having a bad day. If it's a series of bad days, you're saying, hey, you may want to just reach out, and it's okay.
It's okay.
That should be the takeaway, right?
Yes.
That it's okay.
It's okay
for us to reach out. Right?
Absolutely. And you want to have someone with an unbiased opinion, right? Just talking to you. Like, that's so cool. And it's a service that's there and available.
I'm so glad that we have, organizations like yours, Pace Consulting right here in Maryland, in the DMV area. It's local. Mm-hmm. And because you're also, part of like that whole telehealth thing, we can get to you online. So there's no excuse, no traffic, no COVID, anything. It's like you can hop online and reach Dr. Paula or a member of her team.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to help.
Wonderful. Dr. Paula, it has really been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Folks, you already heard how to get in contact with Dr. Paula. Again, thanks so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye, you too.
Everyone, I'm sure that I'm not the only one who got a lot from today's interview. Mental health, it's not just trending. It's something, it's very real. And we've got to move away from it being taboo to really just normalizing it in our discussions, in our dinner table discussions, right? And we've also talked about how mental health and wills and estate planning are related. There's an intersection there. I, as an estate planner, I need you to be clear. I need you to be mentally healthy to make the decisions that we're gonna need to make in creating your estate plan. So if you're in Maryland or DC and need help creating a strategy for your legacy, I want you to give our office a call. The law offices of Elsa W. Smith at 410-995-7719. You can reach us on our website at elsawsmithlaw.com. And we are all over social media at Elsa W. Smith Law. Again, this is Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney. Thank you so much for your time. And share this video with your friends and loved ones. And if you catch this on the replay, make sure and put #replay on the comments so we know that we're reaching you. And if you have any questions or comments about today's show, put that also in the comments. I want to know that guests like this and the topics that we're talking about today are really resonating with you. So I look forward to seeing you each week here on Women Winning Wednesdays. I'm Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.